the next part of this meeting will be board comments.
Mr. President. My name is Sandra Raymaker, for those of you who don't see the name tags in front of us and aren't really aware of some of the things that go on. I was very surprised at the actions that happened at the last meeting. The first words out of our president's mouth were the fact that it's my position that I will only accept the termination of the manager. How is that giving anybody an evaluation? We had accepted a policy. We had our forms in front of us. We didn't even go through any of the forms. We didn't do any of it. We were guided in a direction and shocked at the direction this was going. Some of the comments that were made that, Mr. Levitt, I have had many, many sleepless nights for months. My question is if you knew all these complaints from the employees or the community, why weren't they taken to the manager? Nowhere in his files does it show that he was confronted or talked to or given the chance to correct these things. If you were worried, if we were concerned about how it was going to react, that there might be some legal issue, we have litigation meetings probably at least once a month. It could have come up in the litigation and been told, you know, we have some big issues and we're concerned, we're worried about them, we need to do something about them. I didn't see them. I'm out in the public all the time. I've heard nothing but really good things about Ken, about the changes he made. After several members, a manager, hydrologist were removed because of their actions, we have been able to start pulling this district together and trying to get back some of the injustice that was done because of their actions. And there again, some of the board was involved in that. Some of the board had to have known things or didn't ask things that they should have asked. We started asking more questions. I've never had Ken not give me an answer to a question. I've never had Mary not give me an answer to a question. If I've come and asked something, I get the answers. But nowhere does it show that Ken was approached, nor were we approached with all this information that's supposedly out there of all the wrongdoing he's doing. It's so wrong. I mean, I have gotten emails galore telling us and asking us why we did the things we did. And I honestly can't tell you why we did the things. I know on my part I was so shocked, I honestly had to think about what had happened and how to make it right. I personally think that the State Attorney General should be brought in on this. I believe there was actions that were happening that were not proper. His office has been contacted, and I believe that it should go forward. I think our president was completely out of line. I don't think our president should be with us any longer. I think everybody should be re-looked at and re-evaluated as to what their actions are and why everybody didn't know what was going on. I believe that Ken Rock's position should be given back to him. I believe that we should move in that direction and start again from there. If there's all these issues, then let's bring all these issues forward. Let's give him the opportunity to correct whatever's going out there. The employees haven't come in. He just did their evaluations a month ago. There's nothing there that says, I don't like the way he's doing things. I'm worried about the way things are happening around here. And talking about the future and our environment, if we don't care about our future and our environment, just like the water study. True, we don't have a lot of money. There was a proposal coming up as to how we could budget. We have people who are willing to put the money in. If we don't have that study, how can the city, the water district, or anybody go forward? So if that's future thinking and that's wrong, I don't understand it. I would never understand that. I know it's expensive, but maybe we're not going to necessarily looking to get more water rights. We're looking to find out even Do we have enough water? Is there as much water as we think we're gonna get, that we can supply to you? How is forward thinking wrong? How is protecting our environment wrong? I just thoroughly believe that we need to back up, start over, give Kim back his position, if he'd even be willing to come back here after all of this happened, and start over and do this right. And then if it turns out that he is really so unjust and so imperfect and done all these bad things, then we move in that direction. And if he hasn't, then we say we're sorry and we make things go the right way.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Carl Gustavus, so I'm the other bad guy, I guess. I'm not really sure where to start. This is such an appalling thing that's happened to this community. It's really unbelievable. It's taken us back probably 10 or 15 years of where we were. From a legal perspective, it's unbelievable that somebody could go ahead and do something that they did without even contacting our attorney. The attorney's out of town. No legal sessions, no discussions. All this was done on the secret. So I concur with what has been said about the Attorney General. I know there's already several people who are working on that and other things, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at. I just think that, you know, we have a problem with Ted as president. There's no doubt about it. You know, those of you who have come to the meetings, and you know, Dave back there has been to a lot of them. There've been many times when this gentleman over here, we had, for example, I'll give you an example. We had the head official in Fish and Wildlife for the state of Nevada here, a female, with another female with her at the time. And this gentleman started going into a tirade about how he hated government and used profanity. That was witnessed by not by this attorney, but by one of Bo's attorneys. He was here as well. I had to stop him and tell him that's enough. We're not gonna have this going on here. And if you do it, Ted, you're out of here. But you know, he's continued to do these type of crazy things from day one. I think he needs to go. If he's not gonna go from the board, if he's not gonna go from the board, then he certainly does not need to be in the position of president. He just doesn't represent this community and the type of the quality of the people that live here. We're not that kind of people, for crying out loud. Do we use profanity and yell and scream at women and act like a fool? No, I don't think so. I think that that's way out. I can't believe that Bo Bingham was not involved in this initially, because I think there might have been some advice about the possibility of 3 people coming in. And I've got, by the way, now off of the, understand as of today, all of the videos have disappeared off the internet. Don't worry, there's plenty of them floating around.
All the videos are still there on my
I
website.
was told by somebody they tried again today and they couldn't get them.
They're all there.
Thank you, I appreciate the fact that you've done that, and they are there as a permanent record. Some of the reasons that were given are so unbelievable that I couldn't even speak. I honestly couldn't. It's the first time in my life I couldn't say anything because I was just so appalled what had happened. I couldn't even say anything. I asked our president, he suggested that he went right into it. In fact, he says in the newspaper, it says, and I've confirmed that, he says, I will not accept any motion other than termination of Ken Rock. So that means that he now thinks that he doesn't even have to accept motions from the board? I don't think so. Well, go listen to it. So anyway, in fact, I think it's quoted in the newspaper today as well. So anyway, it's my feeling that this whole thing was nothing but a ploy to get rid of Ken Rock. And if you look at the questions and comments and so on, if you go back to the meeting, the prior meeting, which was back on the 5th, this is when this started to develop. And in that particular meeting, it was brought up by the Chamber of Commerce. They requested a meeting with the board, which I think is highly appropriate. If they want to come in and talk to the board, should we tell them no? I don't think so. So I don't think Ken did anything wrong and said, yes, if you want to come in and talk to the board, you can come in and talk to the board. He wasn't making any kind of commitment to the Chamber of Commerce at all. He just allowed them to come in. Well, when they came in, they had a proposal and they were talking about taking the water tower, and of course, well, we'll get into that in a minute. We're talking about the water tower, and they brought in an idea, and they said that they not only could do that, but after some deliberation that we had with them, they also said they would try to come up with some funding so there would be continued money available down the road to maintain that. They were willing to do that, and that we put into an escrow. And of course, that was immediately canceled when all this happened. On the next meeting, that was canceled by the board date, or by the original person who was willing to do it, and it was, evidently, it was the golf industry was willing to do it, which was great. I can just see it out there, the greatest golf in the world, Mesquite, Nevada. Matter of fact, another big issue is made about some of these that were sent. This is the insubordination of Ken Rock. Some pictures done by some artists in Mesquite that was sent out and sent back to Ken and said, we've got these because the chamber is talking with you. If they can use these, you're welcome to have them. That was used as evidence that oh, we're still dealing on this thing, and they didn't want us to do anything on the tower. So let's go to Rich Bowler. Rich Bowler's, and I think that I heard Bonnie make some comment. Rich Bowler was very enthusiastic about it. And by the way, Kenyon Levitt, who was home worrying about what he had to do in the next little while, didn't have to attend that meeting like he doesn't attend about every third meeting. So he wasn't there, but yet he made comments about this later, and we'll get into those. These are direct comments from Rich Bowler. I'm 100%, I agree 100%. We can work with the chamber. I'm for it. These are all quotes from what he said. I'm 100% for it. I think it's just great. We want to work with the chamber and we want to work with the city. Those are comments during his discussion.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the meeting with the Chamber of Commerce that came on previous meeting. And the reason I'm talking about it is this was used as insubordination because Ken Rock, some way or another, was held responsible for, we're going to do something terrible and put something on there on the tower. So Ted Miller, I'm against it. Lousy location. Ratepayers don't want anything to do with it. Commented his wife has been in real estate in Mesquite for 14 years and she doesn't even know where the thing is and doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't know where the tower is. Wow, I love you, sweetheart. I don't believe that you own where that tower is. I don't believe that's the truth.
Carl, I've got to interrupt you.
I don't think you have to.
Yes, I do. You're putting out some information that's not true. This
It's on the internet.
Excuse me, I would like to hear Mr. Gustafson finish.
Yes.
It's my right.
Are you wanting me to give an opinion on this?
Yeah.
I think that everybody should have an opportunity. The board has put in place certain rules regarding public comment, and generally that's limited to a reasonable time frame. As far as board comments go, I think all board members who want to speak should have a full opportunity to speak, whether it's on behalf of Ken Rock or the other way, everybody that wants to speak, I would encourage you to speak up. I think that would be fully appropriate.
Okay, back to that. Putting things out there that don't articulate. Okay, after that, then Rich Bowler come back in, he says, I disagree with Ted. I think it's a great idea.
Still do.
It would be a great idea for the chamber and the city to put this positive impression on the tank, okay? Sandra Raymaker made comments that she felt it was a very good idea and supported it and wouldn't cost the city or the district any money, so she couldn't see any reason to go ahead with it. Carl Gustavus, he said that he thought it would be great to have a positive message on there, made some comments about the need for some positive things happening in the community. Recent, there hasn't been many, so. And Bo Bingham at that meeting also made a comment, our attorney. And that was in context of making sure that the, whatever was put on the water tank would be something appropriate and not a commercial for some individual, but something that had to do with the city of Mesquite, which had already been discussed by the board at that time. And he noted that he totally agreed with what us guys were trying to do, was Mr. Bingham's word, our attorney. But he also noted that, you know, it need not to be a commercial, but it had to be a symbol of Mesquite. So when we fast forward, so now we fast forward to the actual meeting where, last meeting, and all of a sudden, Mr. Bowler says that it's insubordination. He said he had complaints from employees and so on, but anyway.
No, I
the one-
never said I had complaints from employees
Yeah,
in the meeting. I
yeah,
didn't
you
say that.
did. Yeah, you say you have had some of them come talk to you.
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
never said anything about employees in that meeting.
Okay, well, go back and look at the video. Said he had numerous ratepayers from both Mesquite and Bunkerville that also talked to him. But he went on to, this is the one that I really want to get to. He said, the straw that broke the camel's back is the insubordination in following the chamber's approach to the board's plan to put emblem on the tank. So there's a man that had, I think, 6 positive comments, comes back the next meeting, gonna terminate somebody because he was insubordinate. Kenyon used the same thing. I'm gonna cut it off at this, but I'm just gonna tell you that, you know, yes, I was surprised. Yes, do I think this is a disaster for this community? Does our attorney think it's a disaster? I would sure think he does, because we're in the middle of several big lawsuits that mean millions of dollars to these ratepayers. And because of the action of these 3 individuals, there is no telling where we're gonna go with that. You know, we have spent months prepping Ken to be ready for those lawsuits that are coming forth, and also there are a number of legal charges against people that used to run this water district that are also coming up for their actual trials, so. The timing couldn't be worse. You wanted to pick a bad time, you wanted to make sure you hurt this district. That was a good move, Ted. You did great, buddy. And so, that's about all I think I want to say on this. I just think that there are people out there who are smart enough to know that this stuff can't continue. It was ridiculous when I asked Ted to at least give us an explanation of why he said he had to be fired, and he refused to even let us move forward on the actual review. What could have hurt to do the review? If it's so bad, and there's 3 people that really know all these things, and they can justify them, and they can take them to court and prove that they were right, why would they not allow that to go forward? They didn't allow it to go forward for one reason. They had already made a decision. They didn't need to waste their time. And so I'm praying that this community will pull itself back together we don't lose everything we got because of these stupid kind of moves. This is not good. And the comments about, and I think we had a couple of them make comments about our, and I see some of our contractors in the room today, about the contractors were unhappy, that they had contractors come and talking to them, and one of them made a comment about maybe we weren't doing the bids right. We were some way or another that Ken was being favored. I gotta tell you, when I come on his board, and Mr. Haven's back there, and he's not, he's not happy with what happened when he was on the board. There was times when, most of the time, when there were no bids given out. They were just, the jobs were just given out. One thing that Ken did is he brought honesty to this board. The bids went out, and then now they're saying the some way or another that he rigged those bids, and when those bids were opened, they're opened by the staff. You've been involved in opening on bids. They're opened by the staff. There's nothing wrong with the bids. I've got a gentleman here, second from the front here, Mr. Levitt, who has been fortunate enough to receive quite a few of those bids. You know how he's done it? Not because he come and talked to me, not because he talked to one person here. He got them because he made legitimate bids that were fair, and we saved money, and he did the work. Now, he didn't get them all, other people got them as well. But, to make those kind of accusations and to try to say that Ken was, well, I just think it's a travesty. It's just terrible. I think that you guys all owe them an apology, and I think you need to be gone, so. By the way, this gentleman was laughing too, along with Dave back there, if you go and look at the video when all this happened. It was not funny to see a man and his wife have their whole lives destroyed. I begged that guy to come to this community. I spent hours on the phone talking to him about what a great community this was and the wonderful people that were here. You know what? You guys made me into a liar.
I only have one comment. I adamantly reject any notion that I had, I violated the open meeting law, and I welcome any inquiry by the state attorney's office. I have no questions.
Okay, this is followed by the president board comments. Should I make no comments?
You can make whatever comment you want, or no comment.
Or an apology if you'd like.
I don't need to
Or a
apologize to
resignation.
an appointed member of the board, but I will say, this district is $41 million in debt. And we've had several, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the money that was really stolen out of this district. And how that money disappeared is because the board lost control of the agenda. They were always held their feet to the fire when the items come up on the agenda. The Constitution doesn't stop in Washington, D.C. It goes throughout our government. And the reason our system works is because of the people. And your voice to this water board is through the agenda. If there's any of you that want to speak to this board, you can put it, or any item you want to put on the agenda, you can do it through the agendized system. That's the way our government works. And when you get one bureaucrat in that wants to block the agendas, wants to control it, then you lose and you end up being $41 million in debt. I went through all of that. I've seen that happen. Now, none of you people were at any of those meetings where we went through all of that ugliness of it. But it happened. And it happened because we didn't have the support of the public that we have here today. I can tell you one thing that I know for sure, that with the exception of debates that I have with my wife, there's always two sides to every story. And I suggest that you study this, you think about this, and what you're saying here today, you people have never been here. We've gone through a lot. We had crooked attorneys, we had crooked hydrologists, we had people lie to us, and we cleared that up. And we're not gonna ever let it get to a situation where you can't speak, and that's what happens when you lose control of the agenda. That's all I'm saying.
So